Hey guys, welcome to another green tea talk. If you haven't seen the other one I've done, these are more chatty, off-the-cuff kind of videos. I don't have notes or research, I just talk about different topics, mostly sustainability related. And in this video, I'm going to discuss my background, my experience in fashion school, and how I became interested in sustainable fashion. So a few years after graduating high school, I decided to study fashion design, and I went into it because I was really interested in fashion and I always loved clothing and ironically loved to shop. And so I thought it would be a really good field for me. Plus, I'd always been creative and artistic and really liked the idea of designing and creating something that was useful and that people wore and used every day. So I started looking into fashion programs, and in Canada, there were basically two different options for a degree program, one in Toronto and one in Vancouver. And I decided on the program in Vancouver. It was at a university called Kwantlen Polytechnic. And I decided on that program because it was very practical. While it probably wasn't as fun as a lot of creative, artistic kinds of fashion programs, it was very focused on also the business and the selling and the idea that the clothing has to be used and somebody has to buy it. So who is the customer and how can you meet their needs? It was really good because we not only studied design and drawing and drafting and sewing, but we had to take classes like mass manufacturing where we'd have to do quality control policies, and we had to create what's called specification packages for every single garment that we made. And these are the packages that you would normally send to a factory to make sure that the garment comes out the way you want it. So it has all of the details, all the instructions, all the measurements. So it was really good to have that component of it also, instead of just designing it, but how does it actually get made? How does it get sold? It was a really great program and I really loved it. Now, it wasn't at all a sustainability focused program, but we would occasionally have class discussions or have speakers come in or have sustainability elements incorporated into certain projects. And as the years went on too, we were able to customize our projects a bit more. So I chose to focus on more sustainability related things. So when I started the program, I wasn't at all much of a conscious consumer. I guess I was a little bit. I'd been vegetarian for quite a few years. And given the choice between two different products in a store, I definitely would choose the more environmentally friendly one. But that was kind of the extent of it. Like, I wouldn't really research different products or research brands or really look into where the things I was buying came from. So studying fashion, I started to learn more about just what went into making clothes and all the different aspects of it and the different issues that surrounded those. And then I started doing my own research more into a lot of these things and just started uncovering more and more and more problems and different things that I never thought of. And it definitely was really overwhelming, and there were times I for sure felt like just quitting because I was like, there's no way that I can work in such a terrible industry that has so many problems and is so terrible to people and to animals and to the environment. And I felt like I could never work in that and do that. But through my research, I also started learning about brands that were doing things more responsibly, and that was really encouraging to see. And also learning about new technology and new materials and just different things that I never realized even existed, like learning about natural dyeing and how you can dye fabric with vegetables and flowers and plants and stuff like that. So as the years went on, I started learning just more and more, and also trying to see how that kind of fit in with my own values. So in our third year, we had to do a internship, and I interned for a local luxury label called Obaki, and it was a really amazing experience because they have a philanthropic business model where they take their profits from their fashion line and use it to fund all of the overhead and administration costs of their foundation, which drills wells in South Sudan. So basically, any donations that go to the foundation go directly to their projects, which is really amazing because that never really happens with charities. And it was so inspiring for me to see a fashion business where their primary goal was not to just sell as much clothing as possible and make as much money as possible, to see that fashion could also do really good things, and it doesn't just have to be about selling and money and selling more and more and more. And the owner of the brand is really incredible, and she was so inspiring because she was taking two things that she was really passionate about, designing and creating clothing and helping people, and found a way to put those together and to create a business that does both. And so that really got me thinking about different kinds of business models. So then going into my fourth year, we had to, as our final project, create a collection that was focused on a niche market. And there was two parts to it. There was a very intensive research part where we had to just basically be able to defend any sort of decisions that we were making and plan everything out and design it. And then we actually had to produce the collection. So I obviously wanted to do something sustainability related, and I decided that I was going to try and create a collection that was as sustainable as I could possibly make it. So I did a lot of research, and through that research I discovered slow fashion, and that really resonated with me because slow fashion is basically the opposite of fast fashion. It's a focus on quality over quantity. It tries to reduce the environmental impact throughout the supply chain and production process, and also cares about the people and anyone that's involved. And that was exactly the way that I wanted the fashion industry to be, and sort of my, I guess, vision and ideas of the way that I wish things were. And the more research I did into slow fashion and into producing things in a sustainable and ethical way, I started discovering these brands that were doing that and were doing really interesting and innovative and beautiful things with slow fashion. And that was incredibly inspiring and encouraging to see all of that, because while you're doing the research, you're also learning even more about all the terrible things that are going on. So it was really nice to have that balance of doing all of this research into all these issues, but then also seeing companies that are trying to change that. Through that whole research process, I also learned that there's basically no way to make something that is completely sustainable, because you always have compromises and there's always decisions to make. So, for example, of fabric like organic cotton, which is really great in so many ways in terms of that it uses way less pesticides and it's a plant material, and cotton as a fiber just has a lot of really great properties, but it's a very water intensive crop. And everything has different issues. And then you look at something like linen, which is way less water intensive, but then as an actual fiber, it's a lot harder to work with and it wrinkles and there's other issues. So there basically is no perfect solution, and there's no perfect way to make sustainable clothing. And so that was a really interesting experience for me, and learning how to balance that and how to weigh all these different elements and do as much research as I could into all the different elements so that I could try to make decisions about how to design these clothes and what to use. So basically, my final collection ended up being made out of organic cotton and rare breed Canadian wool, and it was entirely naturally dyed using primarily food waste, so things like coffee grounds, pomegranate rinds, onion skins. And it was also designed with the intention that the pieces would be kept a really long time, so they were made to be really good quality. So because I'd been interested in also different kinds of business models, I loved the idea that you could have a business model where people could come back with their clothes and they could be adjusted and could be redesigned, and also the idea of co-creation and co-designing so that people could create garments that were unique and specific to them, to their size, to their aesthetic, whatever that may be. Just looking at clothing as more than the customer comes in and buys what's on the rack, but as kind of an ongoing creative process in a way, so that it could be kept for a really long time and mended and adjusted and passed down and just have a really long life. And it was a really interesting project, and I learned so much from it. I'll try to include a few images of my collection and some of the pieces I made. So then I graduate university, and it's time to go into the workforce. And basically all of the jobs that were available and that I interviewed for were for the exact kind of company that I didn't want to work for and didn't believe in what they were doing. And so that was then another just really overwhelming and kind of frustrating experience, especially because I was basically told to downplay my interest in sustainability. You know, when you're starting off in a company, they just want you to do whatever they're doing, and they don't want anyone that's going to possibly question things that they do or suggest things or try to change things. Like, they just want somebody that works for them and does what they're told. So I was told to not really, I guess, talk as much about how interested I was in sustainable fashion, because they probably won't like that. So that was so discouraging. And after interviewing for a few different companies, I basically realized that that wasn't for me. And so I started working on my own and doing custom garments for people, and also doing freelance work where I was primarily working with small designers. And even though they weren't sustainability focused companies, they at least were just much more responsible, I guess, than a lot of these really large companies. And throughout that, I've just continued to research and learn more about different things and discover new brands and new products and new materials. So then I started up this YouTube channel, and it's been amazing to be able to share something that I'm really passionate about, and to learn from you guys and hear your stories and learn more about minimalism, because I'm pretty new to that, and discovering green beauty and all of that kind of stuff, and just continuing to try my best and to get better and to learn more. So yeah, that's, I guess, my background, sort of a quick summary of my background in fashion design and my interest in sustainable fashion. So hopefully you know a little bit about where I'm coming from when I make a lot of these videos. It's something I think about a lot and spend a lot of time researching. And I really love the fact that I'm able to share that and to help people that are also struggling with some of these issues and with making decisions that are more responsible, because I really understand how difficult it can be and how overwhelming it can get. And if I can make that simpler, then I really want to be able to do that, and I really enjoy doing that. And I also completely understand that it's not really realistic for most people to spend hours and hours and hours, researching. I really want to be able to kind of condense that information. So I hope you find my videos helpful, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Please let me know in the comments if you'd like to see more of these green tea talks, and if there's any topics that you'd like me to discuss. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.